Hi, my name is Flip Awesome Aguilera, and welcome to WEYT, the show where I find interesting people just like you and discover what's going on between their ears. Now, let's get to know one another. What's going on, everybody? Flip Awesome Aguilera here, and welcome to another episode of WEYT. Today's mantra is being efficient is not the same as being productive. Being productive is the skill of getting the right things done so that we accomplish what we set out to do in the first place. So it's the work that actually matters. So that's our mantra for today. And as you can see here, I have a wonderful face smiling back at me. And this is Colsie Searcy. And Colsie, I've met just a few months ago because I moved out here to Colorado Springs and we got invited to a house party. And Colsie and her husband Cooper were there. And that's where I first got introduced to them. And ever since I met her and her husband, who have both been amazing people to know here in Colorado, every time I see them, it feels like I care for them and just like them more and more, just from hearing the words that come out of the mouth and seeing the energy that comes out of their existence. Colsie Searcy. I love your name, by the way.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about you, how you've gotten to where you are, a little bit of your backstory and your journey.
Oh, sure. Well, and jumping off of that, it's been amazing getting to know you and Maritza as well. And it's just been incredible seeing you immerse yourself into the city. And we just keep finding ourselves running in the same circles. Like we were definitely meant to be friends, that's for sure. A little bit about me. I was born and raised here in Colorado Springs. Left for a while, traveled around the world, and picked up a lot of knowledge and experiences along the way. It's led me to where I'm at now. We've come full circle. We're back in Colorado Springs, back where we feel like we belong, where we can make the biggest influence here and be influenced in the best ways. So life is a journey, and the journey is full of ups and downs, and it's about what we do with those ups and downs that lead us to become the person that we're meant to be. And I truly feel like I am on that journey of becoming my truest and highest self. I look back on my life and I think about all of those ups and downs, the roller coasters, the challenges that have led me to be who I am today. And part of that is I run a really successful real estate business here in town. And the way I run my business is completely a result of my life's journey. I don't do door knocking. I don't do, too hard sales, anything like that. I really run my business off of a vibe, off of connection, and connection has become one of the very most important things in my life. So not only is my real estate business run on connection, but it has led me down a path of exploring what I can actually do for other people, because I realized that using that ability inside of me to create connection, it doesn't only benefit me, but it benefits all of the people around me. And especially as adults, it's hard to make friends. It's hard to make connection, especially when you're in a new place, or you just kind of get wrapped up in your own life, and then you realize, oh well, I'm kind of missing this link. That link has really portrayed itself to me in a way of knowing that people need that extra boost. That's kind of what I do. I make connection everywhere I go.
Well, you said that you traveled around the world and you accumulated some knowledge and experiences. Can you tell us lessons you learned from traveling around the world?
Well, one of the first places that we ended up at was Okinawa, Japan, which, if you're not familiar, is a small island off of the mainland of Japan. And coming from the mountains, a landlocked situation, we found ourselves on this island, and the people on this island were just so different from anybody I've ever met in my life. They took care of each other and they truly loved each other. The island itself actually has more people who have lived over the age of 100 than anywhere
Yeah.
else in the entire world. And I think that the reason that they do is, one, they eat a lot of fish and really good food for them. But on top of that, they take care of each other. They love each other. They are a community. And that really inspired me. When people are loved and cared for, their lives are so much more and worth living, and they want to live, and they stay healthy and happy that way. Yeah.
Basically, you're saying so like the centenarians, and that's a blue zone. And to echo what you're saying, when I lived in Miami, I had a group of friends that we started a WhatsApp group called Game Day Blue Zones, where we would just come together to do exactly what you're saying, to be friends, to, just be with each other. We would play games and do all these little
Mhm.
things, but the most important thing is that we would drop everything else and just be with
Mhm.
each other, help each other, listen to each other. So I
Mhm.
that's awesome that you're sharing that. So you can continue, because it sounded like you had some more awesome things that you learned.
Coming from here, growing up, my home life wasn't always as the most stable. It wasn't the most welcoming for who I am. I always kind of felt like an outsider in my own home. I always looked for that connection through my friends, through people on the outside, and by doing so, I came across a lot of leaders in my life. I came across a lot of people that I felt like I could relate with, and I took that knowledge that I've collected along the way, and it's traveled with me. It's also a part of where that need for connection comes from, and that desire where I can see where it's necessary. I had a lot of moments where I was like, "What? Why me?" I did a lot of that, and learned that it's not why me. It's all about the journey. Things happen to us for a reason. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be the connector that I am today. I wouldn't be helping as many people as I am. It's kind of catapulted into another business that's coming out. I'm starting just to start getting into, which is coaching. I want to be a coach for women, a coach for people who are looking to get to that next level, who need that connection to their higher self, and they need to figure out how to pull that through. So that was another huge life lesson I think that I've gone through in my life to get me here as well.
So what's amazing about what you just said is that, how many people out there use the victim card when it comes to how their family treated them when they were growing up, or, they have every excuse. My dad hit me, or I had a single mom, she didn't pay attention to me. There's
Right.
an infinity amount of stories. You didn't give us any detail on that story, but you did just give us the detail that you went through some of those types of
Mhm.
experiences, but yet you've used them to feed you, to build you, and to build
Mhm.
those around you.
I kind of live by that theory of if if not me, then who? And I I am in control of my mind and my thoughts. I can make that decision to fall into that victimhood, or I can make the decision to say, "Hey, look, this is the hand I've been dealt. What do I do with it? How do I change it? How do I make it better?" And that's
Mhm,
really become all aspects of my life. If there's something in my life that I don't like, I'm instantly like, what can I do to change this? What
mhm.
can I do to make this better?
Okay. And instead of practicing that victim
Yeah, there's
mentality,
no room for that. Absolutely not.
did you ever have that, even if it was for a little bit?
Oh, I've absolutely had that. I think
Mhm,
everybody falls into that every now and then. And those little moments of, oh, woe is me.
mhm,
If this hadn't happened to me, this would be different. I wouldn't feel this way if so and so would have done this, or so and so wouldn't have done that. The thing is that I can't control what anybody else does. I can only control what I do. So I just have to, I just play the reel in my head when those moments of depression fall in, because they do for everybody.
yeah.
This isn't me. I'm sad right now. I don't feel like myself, but I know that this isn't who I am. And I know that the page is going to turn.
Awesome. Well, thank you for
Yeah,
sharing all that, and
absolutely.
being coming out with vulnerability already, which is awesome.
Yeah, I surprise people, I think, sometimes with that, but the way I see it is, if we can't be honest with each other, then how are we going to really get to know each other, and how are we going to help each other? As a child, I hid that completely. I always wanted everything to look perfect, and everyone to think I had this, I had it all together. My family was great, but the truth was there's a lot of struggle there, and I just hid it. As I got probably into my early 20s, I started to feel that heaviness. I started to feel like I wasn't myself. And so I had to start pulling myself out of it. There's just no room for victimhood, especially when you know deep inside of you that you have a lot to give, and you have a life to live that's worth something. You can't hide behind it.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. But now we're going to transition into the next question, which is the
Okay.
question that this podcast is all about. And that is, Colsie, what's been engaging your thoughts lately?
Oh, there's always so many things engaging my thoughts, but the biggest right now is really answering the soul's callings. Like I mentioned earlier, was entering into that coaching world where I can have that connection with other people who are looking for extra growth. Those moments of self-doubt that kind of creep in. Am I good enough? Will I be good enough? And it's about connecting to that external power that says, who knows? Who cares? You got to just do it anyways. And I fell into a modality that is called human design.
Okay.
Human design has radically shifted my life and my life's purpose. It comes down to knowing your soul's design, essentially. Everybody has a blueprint inside of them. It's about connecting with that blueprint and living 100% authentically. And once you start to do that, just watching the world around you unravel in the most beautiful way. And so those are the things that are engaging my thoughts more than anything is personal growth, connecting with the inner soul and reminding myself that I am just a human. And what do I need to do to make the human happy, because this is the only life we've got. And what can I do to help other people do the same?
How did you get introduced to human design?
I fell into human design through another course I was taking right when COVID hit. I started taking some self-development courses because I'm like, I'm kind of stuck at home. I might as well dive in and make the best of it. And so while I was in another course, it came up in a conversation. I said, okay, well, I've actually seen this before, but I never actually dove into it. So let me go in and see what my human design is, just out of curiosity. And when I did that, it just opened up this portal for me. And then people started kind of trickling in who were teachers, who were mentors, who lived through their personal human design, and I could see it playing out in their lives. I just gravitated to them and I'm teach me all the things, teach me everything I can, and I haven't stopped since.
All right. So, can you share with us what are some of the first principles or foundational principles of human design?
Absolutely. Human design is based off of a couple different modalities. Actually, it's based off of the I Ching, and it's based off of astrology, and those things have kind of come together, and the chakra system. We started with 7 chakras, but as humans have developed, the energies inside of us have also developed. And so human design actually has 9 centers instead of just 7. When we look at human design, reading page 1, it's broken down into 5 different energy types. So there's 5 different energy types of people, and we can look at them in a hierarchy, so to say, of like a kingdom. We have the manifestors. Manifestors are the type of people who come up with these grand ideas. Their energy is very, very guarded, reserved for themselves, because they have all of these grand things going on inside of them. The thing with them is that they're not actually meant to do the work. So essentially they are the kings and queens. They are the ones who say, here, this is my kingdom, and the kingdom needs X, Y, and Z to survive. And they tell their right hand men, who are projectors in life. Projectors are also a type that do guard their energy, feed off of other people's energy. They wait for that invitation. An invitation is given to them, and then once that invitation is given to them, they can turn around and give it out to the people. And they can be our liaison between the kings and queens. And then they come down to the generators and the manifesting generators. So those are 2 more subtypes that come down. Those are more of our worker bees, our farmers, our builders. We are the ones who have all of the natural energy inside of us. I myself am a manifesting generator. The energy that I have inside of me is much different than somebody who is a projector. And when a projector will come to me, they can feed off of my energy, and then, vice versa. And then we go down. The last one is a reflector, who is like the oracle of the kingdom. They are meant to be a human mirror, essentially. And they're very, very rare. They're only 2% of the population. So when you meet a reflector, it's really it gets really exciting, especially for somebody who studies human design. Because I met one the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm like meeting a celebrity right now because I've never met a reflector. But so essentially, we break down into those 5 energy types. Do that, and not one is any better than the other. We all just need each other, and we need to work off of each other's energy, but we need to understand what our personal energy is first, so that we can show up authentically and not be sorry for who we are in any way. No, we just need to know that we are built this way for a reason and we have a purpose.
When I hear you say that, it makes me think of some of the work of Carl Jung, because he was the one who really brought out the whole archetypes and
Mhm.
hierarchies. Like he's the one who introduced that into the psychological world and
Mhm.
said, this is kind of how things are.
Yeah.
And he got a lot of pushback, so much so that him and Freud ended up not being friends anymore,
Yeah.
because Freud was like, that's garbage what you're talking about. And he's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. I see it. I see it.
Yeah.
I
He was
see
a
hierarchy.
very, very wise man. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's just interesting how, how all those things do seem to come back around, and we're
Mhm.
still trying to figure it out just as humans. And when
Exactly.
I think of even all the other types of things, like even something like Myers-Briggs personality
Yeah.
test, right?
Mhm.
There's hierarchies.
Yeah.
There's 4 or 5 different types within, where
Mhm.
you can end
Mhm.
up being you're a little bit of this one, a little bit of that one, and
Mhm.
which make you what you are.
Exactly. And I've studied those things. I've always been obsessed with personality types and trying to understand what make humans work. And it's like looking back now, human design has really brought all of them together for me. Because even with astrology, I've studied astrology my whole life. I see all of my astrology play out in my human design.
Hmm.
And I also see all of my, my Myers-Briggs play out in my human design. I'm a ENFJ in Myers-Briggs. So, so I'm that extroverted person. I've got this energy and it's projected right back at me in my human design.
I don't remember exactly, but I might be ENTJ. But I also
Ooh,
might be ENFJ. I'm not sure. I have to
yeah.
look it up. I know I have it written down in a note
Yeah.
somewhere. But
Yeah.
that was years ago that I went down all of that stuff, and
Yeah. It's
I
been a while
haven't,
too.
yeah, I haven't repatterned it in my brain. Awesome. I
Yeah.
really love how you are curious about the world that you live in, or even better, the universe that you live in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and that you're
Yeah.
trying to, figure it all out. But now we're going to go to the next part of our interview. And that first question that I have for you on this part is, if you could speak to somebody dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, there's so many. Again, it's really hard to pinpoint one, but Janis Joplin.
Okay.
My dog is actually named after her, Joplin. I just think that I think she knew a lot more than, we even realize. And I think sometimes when we look at humans who have died young, it's kind of a qualification that they lived a lot and they lived a lot really quickly. And, and the genius inside of them will live on forever. And I
For
just would
sure.
love to just sit and talk with her and hear what she had to say and, and just listen to that voice speak to you
Mhm.
directly.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Yeah, she
She's incredible.
definitely had, she has a voice that is unmistakable.
Exactly.
Right? Unmistakable. And the
Yeah.
second you hear that, "Da, da, da, da," I can't do
Yeah.
it. It's not
Oh,
my voice.
yeah.
But that she had that, and she
Yeah.
embodied that 110%.
Exactly.
For this next question, we've kind of been going over it already, but if you can filter it down, what are maybe the top 3 resources that have inspired you?
The top 3 resources. Oh, one would be personal development, being, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I have a lot of leaders that I look to in my life. That's a huge influence on who I am. My grandmother, who passed away when I was in high school, she always instilled in me the power to believe in myself and that it was okay to be different and it was okay to think the way I thought. I mean, that could also fall into your last question of who I'd like to talk to again. But another resource that I connect to is meditation and manifestation. They kind of go hand in hand for me. Those are big. I feel like if you believe it, it will come. You just have to believe hard enough.
So, what do you think of the concept of you have to believe in it first, but then you have to take the actions?
You have to take the actions and you have to be okay with failure.
Oh no,
you
failure
know?
is going to be what you have the most, because like
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
if you think about, say that you want to manifest something. Now, you can stop right there at that level and just
Mhm,
want to manifest something, and
mhm.
you'll probably just want to manifest it for a very long time.
Yeah, you just want and want and want.
Yeah.
You
Uh-huh.
have to make action. You have to take action. You have to say, okay, well, this is what I want. So, what's the very first step I should take to get there?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you have to take that step. And then the next step will present itself to you because the universe wants to give you what you want. But you have to take action for it too.
So the way that I, say that story, that very same type of story in my head, is that I tell people, okay, now that you know you want this thing, and you don't have experience with this thing that you want, you have to allow yourself to be in kindergarten,
Yep.
right? And in kindergarten, are you going to get everything right?
Nope.
No.
Absolutely
so
not. And you have to
so
look at leaders and you have to think, wow, they what took for them to get where they're at.
mhm,
They failed probably 1,000 more times than I've ever even tried yet.
so it's the relationship that we have with failure. And I remember when my stepson went off to college, we had a dinner before he left, like the weekend before he left, and each of the family members, gave him like a tip as he was going
Mhm.
off into his next chapter. And I was one of the last people. I wasn't the last, but I was one of the last. And I turned to him and I said, you need to work on your relationship with failure. And some people on the table were like, huh? And I'm like, no, failure is not a bad thing.
Mm-mm.
It's a teaching thing. Now,
Exactly.
if you think it's a bad thing, every time you experience it, you are going to develop the pattern in your head that failure is bad,
Right.
instead of failure is trying to tell me something so that I can take the next step with a clearer mind and,
Mhm.
a clearer decision process. So, yeah,
Absolutely. And
failure
the
is
more
where
you
it's at.
yeah, and the more you get that in your mind, the more deconditioning you can do.
Hmm.
Because we're deconditioned to think that, or we are conditioned to think that failure is a bad thing.
Yeah, when it's
Yeah,
not at all.
and it's not. You're
when
right.
we're when we're young, it might be because we just don't know what we're doing, and we're
Yeah,
not doing it mindfully. We're not practicing it, that at least I didn't
yeah.
when I
But when
was
you look back, how much did you learn from all of those situations?
for
Like
sure. Hmm.
every door opens for a reason, and the ones that don't weren't meant to be open in the first place.
Yeah. So now we're going to transition to our next question, and in this question I'm going to give you your chance to say something that you just said in the last answer, but let's phrase the question first.
Okay.
If you could go back in time and talk to your 18-year-old grandmother, what advice would you give her?
Oh, wow. That is quite the rephrasing. I would tell her that it's okay to love herself. It's okay to do what makes her happy. She doesn't have to please everybody else. And her life will be so much fuller if she does.
Amazing. Awesome. And that's that she filled you with so
Hmm.
much awesomeness. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So now, next question is, are there any questions you would like to ask me?
Oh, okay. So Flip. What got you here? What led you down this path of spiritualness and being so woke, as we like to say?
Curiosity. Curiosity. So when I grew up in a very Christian type of household. My mom still is ultra Christian, and it hurts her that I don't label myself as that anymore.
Yeah.
But I grew up going to church Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, twice on Sundays. So that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
Now, in my 20s, I completely rebelled against that, and I was a hardcore atheist. And I
Mm.
thought, nothing, everything is made up, everything is stupid, whatever, everybody who believes all these things. And I wanted to literally debate and argue with anybody that I possibly could. And eventually I got to the point where, well, this is not fulfilling, not even a little bit. I'm
Hmm.
just constantly arguing and upset all the time because people don't want to listen to me. So obviously, as I started to dig in and dig in and dig into more things, I started to realize, well, that's very ego driven. That was me being completely captured by my ego and my logic at the same time, right?
Hmm.
So then after, I started after my divorce was a catalyst for a lot of my change, you know, and I didn't know it at the time, but after I got divorced, that's when I got into mountain biking. And I didn't get into mountain biking purposefully. I got into it because some friends invited me and I just started doing it. But when I look back on my mountain biking experience, I see clearly now that getting into mountain biking was the beginning of me learning how to be mindful. Because when you're riding a bike, you have to be present. And I hadn't been practicing presence up
Right.
until then. And I like to say all the time, like when you're riding a bike, if you let your mind wander, you're going to wander into a tree or a rock or something
Right.
uncomfortable. you're
Right.
going to you're going to you're going to fail and learn something. Where, you know, and when I first started mountain biking, you know, I was doing it for fun, but from that very first day that I started to a year later, I went from a complete novice to racing mountain bikes, which means I got lots of practice at being
Mhm.
present and being in the moment and being mindful. That was not my intention.
Right.
That's looking back, I can see how that started
Mhm.
happening. And, you know, I don't, I'm, this is going to sound a little mean in the beginning. Well, not mean, but, you know, but I'm sick and tired of reading that exercise is good for you. Because every time I read that, it's like, damn it, I just read this journal and I already know this.
Mhm.
I'm not learning anything new. So when I did all that exercising,
Right.
so I'm becoming mindful, I'm doing the thing, you know, exercise is good for you mentally, physically, emotionally. Like you
Mhm.
don't need much medicine after that. And I was doing
Right.
so much of it that, you know, I was healing myself through that process.
Mhm. It's almost like
Right.
your subconscious
Hmm.
talk to you through your physical body,
Hmm.
back up to the mind.
So that was the beginning of how I started to, first of all, open up my mind, because I started to realize, you know, until you actually experience something yourself, you don't know anything. So although I would read research and I would do this, for example, nutrition, right? Nutrition
Mhm.
is like religion in that everybody's in their camps. When I start speaking to other people, it's like, well, have you tried paleo? Have you tried keto? Have you tried being a vegetarian? Have you tried being a vegan? Have you tried it? Oh, no, well, the science says. I'm like, forget about what the science says. Have you tried it? Do
Mhm.
you know how your body will respond?
Exactly.
So I became that. I became curious. And it's like, oh, you want to learn about this diet? Do it for 30 days. See what happens. Forget what the science says. You want to know about this religion? Okay, well, read their book. You know,
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah.
I started reading the Bible again. I read the Quran. I read the Dhammapada. I read the Mahabharata. My curiosity
Incredible.
at that point.
Mhm.
So the practice at that point that I wanted to manifest, and it was very purposeful, was to continue to have a childlike curiosity.
Mhm.
And that is still my foundation. It's like, forget about what you think, just observe things, observe the
Right.
Netflix show as it is, and just
Yes.
have a childlike curiosity, because you can't control any of it,
Mhm.
but you can watch it and you can control how you respond to it,
Exactly.
which is echoing what you were saying earlier.
Mhm. Yeah. I
Yeah.
I relate with you 100% on that.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I got to where I am now. So I love when people ask me, like, so then what are you? Are you Christian? Are you Buddhist? What are you? And I'm like, I'm spiritually promiscuous.
I like that answer.
Yes, it's so funny. I love it.
Yeah,
And
I love that. I
in
love
this
it.
place where there's a lot of, conservative people, I love to just say
Right.
because just the word promiscuous in and of itself is a little bit taboo.
Right.
Right.
Ooh, yeah, where are you going with that? Yeah.
Uh-huh. And
I love it.
I learned through all those experiences that, again, until you have experience yourself, until you try to learn it yourself, you really don't know anything.
Right.
And then the
I love
more that
it.
you know, the more you realize, the less you know.
Right.
And then the
The more
last
you
part,
know,
yeah.
how much you realize how small we really are,
Yeah, the more I
right?
know, the more it's like, oh, I used to think I knew this much, and then I learned some more, and now I know this much, and then I learned some more,
Exactly,
and it's like, the
exactly.
more I learn, it seems like the less that I know.
It's so true. It's so
Mhm.
true. And so it's like we'll never stop learning.
Yeah,
People
at
like you
least
and I,
at
it's
least
just
I won't.
I've always got
Yeah.
a book open. I've always got something. I've always found somebody new to learn from because I
Hmm.
know I don't know it all.
No,
And
we
we
can't.
need to stay motivated. We need to
Mhm.
keep surrounding ourselves with knowledge and motivation at all times.
Yeah. So that's my practice, is to
Love it.
just stay open, keep learning. Because at the end of the day, the day you think you actually know something, or the day you think you're right, that's the day you stop learning, right? Because
Exactly.
if you think you're right, you don't need to. That's I'm right,
Hmm.
and I used to be
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
whatever that means.
Your ego was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So he thought. Yeah.
2013, 14 was my ego year, where I was like,
Mm.
okay, let me really focus on that thing and see what that thing
Hmm.
is all about. And
Yeah.
I was happy for that year.
Oh yeah. I think I hit that around 2012 when I hit my Saturn return around
Mhm.
27-ish. Yeah, it took off from there.
We probably don't have time here, but I do want to get into all of your astrology things, because that's one of the things I haven't really ever gotten into. And
Oh
you
yeah.
have, so,
You've
you know.
met somebody who's
Uh-huh.
a wealth of knowledge here, so yeah, we can absolutely have that discussion anytime.
We'll let you know how it goes on a later date,
Yeah.
audience. All right. So with that, let the people know where they can find more Colsie.
Oh, you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Colsie in Wonderland. Always floating out there somewhere.
Uh-huh.
My business page is Colorful Colorado Living. If you're looking for a realtor, you can find me there. Same thing on Facebook, Colsie Searcy on Facebook and Colorful Colorado Living.
All right. So if you want to come live in this beautiful state that we live in, with beautiful people like us, call Colsie so you can get a beautiful
Right.
home.
And pretty soon, I'll have another page for coaching. So if anyone's interested in getting to know me a little bit more on that plane, come find me on Facebook. And my group is called The Ladies Room.
All right. So go check Colsie out in the ladies' room.
Mhm.
Am I allowed to be in the ladies' room?
Oh, sorry.
I had to. If you don't ask, then the answer is definitely no. All right. So, everybody, if you thought this episode was awesome, you can like and share and rate the episode. And, if this message resonates with you, feel free to contact Colsie or myself, and, let's keep the conversation going. So you can find this and past episodes of WEYT. And remember, that's WEYT, WEYT, for what's engaging your thoughts. On YouTube, it's WEYT Show, Facebook WEYT Show, Instagram WEYT Show. So if you could get the picture, WEYT Show. And if you'd like to schedule a call with me, you can send me an email at weytshow@gmail.com. And in closing, like always, time and attention is the greatest gift we can give to each other. So here's to spreading more peace, love, and smiles. Later.
Bye.